You remember Johnny Bravo, right? The muscle-headed cartoon who couldn't talk to women without turning into a walking disaster? Hoo-ha-ha, that one. Cartoon Network sold it as pure Saturday morning fun. But if you go back and actually watch it now, a lot of those lines never should have made it past the writer's room, let alone onto TV for kids. The writers packed it with adult humor that started subtle, cheeky pickup lines and innuendos, and gradually got bolder, pushing into territory that feels shocking for a Saturday morning cartoon. We went through the show and pulled some of the wildest ones. Buckle up, this one gets wild. Starting with the pickup lines. We all know his style and persona was inspired by Elvis Presley. Johnny's whole deal was chasing women, and the writers gave him some impressively loaded material that sounded silly to kids but landed differently for adults. Here's a quick list of some of the standout ones that flew under the radar. Hey, you smell kinda pretty. Wanna smell me? Straight up suggesting physical closeness and sent in a seductive way, delivered like it's smooth. I'm pretty, you're pretty, what do you say we go home and stare at each other? A vanity joke on the surface, but it's basically describing what happens when two people go home together. You know, hey there baby, if I drown, I'm counting on you to give me mouth to mouth. A classic rescue fantasy turned into a very direct excuse to get physical and intimate. How would you like to hang out and watch my blanket with me? Delivered innocently on the surface, but clearly hinting at getting under the covers together. These weren't one-offs, they were the rhythm of the show. Johnny would hit on nearly every woman he met, get launched across the screen, and reset like nothing happened. As a kid, you laughed at the cartoon physics. As an adult, you hear the persistent, over-the-top pursuit played for comedy. The lines were the soft entry point, playful enough to keep the show on the air, spicy enough to entertain the parents watching their kids. But once you spot the patterns, the show starts revealing a consistent underlying vibe that goes beyond random jokes. The hidden theme. The core loop of every episode is aggressive pursuit followed by violent rejection as the punchline, then instant reset. Johnny never learns. No becomes just set up for another slap and another laugh. Over 7 seasons, that repeated message, that boundaries are funny and persistence is harmless if you're cartoonishly dumb, sits in a weird spot. It's not preachy, but it's there. There's also the masculinity angle. Johnny is the ultimate exaggerated straight guy. Muscles, ego, constant woman chasing.
Hi there. Welcome to the island of beautiful men. I can already tell you're going to feel right at home here.
Son, you look like you could use a refresher. We were all about to take a swim. I've got an extra swimsuit if you'd care to join us.
So when the show drops him into an island clearly coded as an island of beautiful men, guys welcoming him warmly, offering a swimsuit, telling him he'll feel right at home, it plays his discomfort purely for laughs. For a series built on hypermasculinity, that choice says something about how they viewed identity and otherness as comedy fodder. These themes weren't necessary for the slapstick to work. The show could have had Johnny fail at dating in cleaner ways. Instead, the writers chose to build the format around relentless pursuit and occasional jabs at sexuality. It made the comedy sharper for adults while staying visually safe for kids. That tension is what makes rewatching Johnny Bravo so fascinating today. Now, to understand how all this slipped through, you have to look at where the show was born. Cartoon Network in the late 90s and early 2000s was still finding its identity. It had launched with classic Hanna-Barbera reruns and was starting to invest in original content. Standards and practices existed, but the network wasn't as tightly controlled as it would become later. Creators had more room to breathe, especially coming out of the Shorts program. The writing room for Johnny Bravo's early seasons was stacked. We're talking Butch Hartman, who went on to create Fairly Odd Parents and Danny Phantom, Seth MacFarlane, before Family Guy blew up, Steve Marmol, John McIntyre, and others. These were comedy minds who loved pushing boundaries. Van Partible, the creator, has been open about it. The network wasn't watching as closely as people assume, and the team took advantage of that freedom. Butch Hartman himself has said the writing team wasn't overly focused on keeping everything squeaky clean. They knew kids would miss a lot of the layers and adults would catch them. It was a smart double audience strategy. Celebrity guest stars like Farrah Fawcett added another layer. Real adults delivering double entendres that kids wouldn't understand but parents definitely would. This was the same era when animated shows were testing what they could get away with. Family Guy would later perfect the adult jokes and cartoon packaging formula, but Johnny Bravo was doing it earlier, on a kids' network, with even less scrutiny. The combination of loose oversight, talented edgy writers, and a visual style that screamed harmless created the perfect storm. Once the show had you hooked with the lighter stuff, it started dropping heavier material. Here's where it goes from cheeky to how did this air? One of the most infamous is the birthday party scene with little Susie, the neighbor girl. She invites Johnny. He turns her down by saying call him back in 15 years, when she's a co-ed. Not older or grown up, that very specific college-age term.
This is little Susie from next door. Will you come to my birthday party today?
I'm busy. Call me in 15 years when you're a co-ed.
An adult character putting a literal timeline on when a child becomes dateable. Yes, it gets awkward very quickly. On the same network as Powerpuff Girls, that line had to be written, approved, recorded, animated, and broadcast. Multiple adults signed off at the very top. The Farrah Fawcett episode pushes even harder. While playing with kids, Farrah herself says she can't remember the last time she was blindfolded, then catches herself, actually wait, I do remember. Not to mention the subtle laugh and oops at the end. Doesn't sound double meaning at all. A sus blindfold joke delivered by a real celebrity icon in a grade school cartoon. Right from the start, they were bold. In the very first episode, Johnny Bravo and the Amazon women, Johnny gets captured for a virgin sacrifice. Virgin? Johnny's already hamming it up about having enough rubbing oil for everybody. They throw him into the volcano anyway, and it erupts. The sacrifice didn't take because he wasn't actually a virgin. He looks almost offended at the accusation. It was one episode, yet no easing in. Later, Johnny works at the Troubled Teen Hotline, a service meant to help kids in crisis. A teenage girl calls, upset about her boyfriend. Johnny's instant response, "What are you wearing?" His boss freaks out and throws him out, showing the show knew exactly how bad it sounded. They kept it in anyway. Then there's the full episode, The Sensitive Male. A character teaches Johnny how to fake emotional sensitivity and vulnerability purely as a manipulation tactic to get women into bed. They turn the whole thing into catchy musical numbers. By the end he gets exposed, so there's a surface level moral, but the concept itself, performative nice guy behavior as a pickup strategy, is very adult dating psychology being served to little kids. One of the boldest, episode Red-Faced in the White House. On a White House tour, the guide points out the pen used to sign the 19th Amendment, the one that got women the right to vote. Johnny, being Johnny, blurts out that he didn't think women liked to vote. Cue the entire tour group chasing him down the hallway like he just insulted their entire existence, which, to be fair, he kinda did. It's a real constitutional amendment turned into a watch the idiot get what's coming to him gag. Somehow that's the joke a kids network signed off on. So in the end, Johnny Bravo didn't accidentally let a few jokes slip past censors. Creator Van Partible admitted as much himself. He said Cartoon Network at the time was loose on oversight and the team leaned into that gap on purpose. Taking the risk was the whole point. It was how they figured out what actually made a cartoon funny. That mix is why it still sticks with us. Bright visuals and physical comedy for kids, a smirk for the adults watching along. The co-ed line, the 6-second magazine moment, the hotline call, the sensitive male scheme, the island scene, the 19th Amendment gag, they all hit different now. Which one surprised you the most? And if Johnny Bravo is rebooted, would you watch it? Drop your answers in the comments. And if you want more of these, cartoons that got away with more than they should have, subscribe, because this is only the first one.